Hey gang, welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Andrew Wolfe, and today we're going to be talking about Boulder, Colorado as usual, but also we're going to be talking about another amazing city called Fort Collins, Colorado. So if you look up best places to live in Colorado, both of those cities are routinely on the list, and they're somewhat competitive with one another, right? So they're both two big college towns, the two biggest college towns in Colorado, most likely. Fort Collins with Colorado State University, home of the Rams, and then you have CU over there in Boulder, home of the Buffs. Both have those very strong, cool, Colorado-rich vibes. Both have a really great food scene. Both have a really great brewery scene. So it's really important to kind of take a look at both of them, see which one might be the best fit for you, because they do have different vibes, right? They might feel the same on paper. When you start digging in, they're definitely going to have some unique features. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, guys. So let's, again, they're both very similar, especially at first glance. They're both going to feel very outdoorsy, very active, and very Colorado. And all those things are true, right? But let's look at some of the differences. So Boulder, is a little more expensive, right? It's going to feel, by virtue of construction and kind of virtue of the layout of the city, maybe a little more upscale, maybe a little closer to what you might expect for, an urban center or a larger city. It's definitely still got its own cool pocket feel, but it does have, downtown Pearl Street. It does have some taller buildings. It does have a little more unique vibe. So it's going to have a little bit more of an upscale and also kind of like wellness focused approach. Fort Collins, on the other hand, is going to feel a little bit more suburban, a little more spread out. Maybe has some more, kind of old fashioned Colorado style architecture and design. And it's going to feel a little more rural relative to the kind of more urban feeling site that Boulder's going to have. Boulder's going to lean very much into kind of the luxury, a little more modern vibe, versus Fort Collins is going to feel maybe a little more affordable, and it certainly is. You're going to get, being a little bit larger homes, maybe a little more bang for your buck as far as home size is concerned in Fort Collins relative to Boulder. But a lot of people like that Boulder lifestyle. They like being able to be a little more commuter and wellness and bike folk. By virtue of that, Boulder is going to be a little more walkable, right? It's going to have Pearl Street that focuses as kind of their downtown as the function that it serves. A little more bikeable, more walkable, a little easier to commute on your feet getting around town. Fort Collins is going to be a little more spread out. So you're probably hopping in your car more often, driving around. It has its own public transit system, but it's maybe not as spread out and as developed quite as much as Boulder is. So you have a little more of that like suburban versus urban, walking versus driving, a little bit different vibes there too. A lot of the Boulder culture, like we talked about in several videos here, is going to be very wellness focused and very activity focused. There's a lot of great activities to do in Fort Collins as well, but it doesn't immerse itself in the culture quite as much as it does in Boulder. It's a little more go there, right? Fort Collins is a little more laid back. Lots of hardworking folks there. They love to work hard, play hard, but the same people do tend to relax a little bit more, has a more laid back culture after work versus kind of the, upbeat wellness, hyper moving culture you're going to see in Boulder. So from like a jobs and financial perspective, the cities are also fairly similar. They're both going to have, opportunities to grow in healthcare, technology. They're both going to have a fair amount of the students being at CU in Boulder or CSU in Fort Collins will stick around and feed into that atmosphere. I guess one sort of advantage that you might see in Boulder is it does have easier access to Denver, right? So a lot of people might commute in. That said, a lot of folks who move to Boulder are doing so to either work remotely or take advantage of some of the great structure that's already exists in Boulder. So, while that's an advantage, it may not be a big difference maker for some. Fort Collins is going to have a very similar opportunity, right? They also have Colorado State University there, so they have a ton of people that are going to be highly educated, just like the populace in Boulder. Some of them are more rural focused jobs, some of them are focused in tech. Also, engineering is a very strong industry there. The veterinary program at CSU is very, very strong, so a lot of the students stick around and employ those skills for work, sticking around the Fort Collins area. Now, while you don't have access to Denver quite as easily, there are some great employers like Otterbox and some other very strong employers. Hewlett Packard is there in Fort Collins. So there are going to be strong employers natively in Fort Collins that provide great opportunities as well. Now, one of the biggest separating factors here is going to be just the price tag, right? So both Fort Collins and Boulder offer really, really great ways of life, right? They're going to offer great access to nature. Boulder probably has a slight edge in that case with the Flatirons being there. The big Fort Collins advantage is it's going to come with a much different price tag. So if you are someone that's going to be very price conscious, but you still want to live the Colorado lifestyle, live in the fun, fast-paced environment of college town, Fort Collins is something you should definitely consider. So I would say, if I'm going to compare and contrast the two, they're so strong and really kind of splitting hairs trying to find differences. But Boulder probably has a little better fast-paced lifestyle, a little better access to Denver, and a little stronger performing in return from the real estate perspective, right? You're more likely to see higher increases in value more quickly. Fort Collins has a big advantage in price, right? So you can get to a larger home for less expensive than you can in Boulder. It has its own great, awesome culture that you're going to be able to see a lot of the positives from Boulder. Maybe not quite the same access to nature, but hey, we live in Colorado. It's not that crazy. And if you do want to explore some other parts around the country too, Wyoming is pretty close. It's easier to jump off to Montana or Idaho from Fort Collins as well. So you have some great access to some cool, unique features in and around Colorado that you may not quite have as easily. So if you want to compare and contrast these things, or if you're interested in moving to Boulder and hearing some more information about that, check out some of my other videos. I love making these videos for you guys, but I love even more connecting in person. So let's go ahead and hop on a phone call, drop me an email, drop a comment down below. I respond to all those. But hey, I love comparing some of these cities. So if there's other cities in Colorado that you're interested in hearing about, I've been all around this great, beautiful state, and I would love to share some more insight. Hope to see you guys next time. Have a great day.